Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be installing Metalcloaks rock sliders and side steps. This will be the last piece of my armor system if you take a look at my Jeep behind me. And let me just go ahead and show you what those look like. Man, these are kind of hefty. So you got a nice little side step here, and then you have plenty of armor that wraps around under the Jeep to give you plenty of protection when you're on the trails. So most of the armor I've been buying has been aluminum, but these are steel, and like I said, they're fairly hefty, so they should be able to take a beating. They come with nice stainless steel hardware to install them, and they use a few rib nuts on these for the install. Metalcloak is even kind enough to supply you with a tiny bit of anti-seize because you always want to use that with stainless steel hardware. These rock sliders are meant to integrate well with their front fenders and their rear armor. So it should fill this gap perfectly, and it will also use these two bolts from that rear armor to help install and hold everything in place. And then you also connect it up there to the front fender. So it'll be one big long integrated system, and it will also work out perfectly with the Motobilt armor I've already installed. It will line up right with the bottom of that, so everything's going to go pretty smooth. With that said, if you guys are interested in this armor, I have install videos for the Motobilt armor that's already up. I have install videos for the rear wraparound Metalcloak armor, and I also have an install video for the front Metalcloak fenders. So be sure to check all those videos out. I'll toss one or two up here on the top. And then hopefully you're enjoying these videos, so make sure you subscribe to the channel so you get notified when I upload more. So like I mentioned earlier, most of this is aluminum. The front fenders are aluminum, the tub armor is aluminum, the half door armor is aluminum, and the wraparound armor for Metalcloak in the rear there is also aluminum. The fender flares are steel, and then the rock sliders are steel. I also have a Savvy aluminum skid plate down here for the fuel tank, so I'm really trying to keep it as lightweight as possible because of the, already 12 miles per gallon I get, and with gas prices, every little bit helps. Plus, aluminum won't rust, and it being lightweight is just a huge plus when installing and for just keeping weight down. Metalcloak doesn't ship instructions with the stuff you buy from them, but you can Google Metalcloak instructions, click the link, and then it'll give you a pretty easy to navigate menu for what you bought so you can get the right instructions. Their instructions are usually okay. They're not the best, but I will talk you through it in this video, so really you don't hopefully need them. Here are the tools that Metalcloaks say are required. So your experience could vary a little bit from mine depending on what's still on your Jeep, but among the first things you need to do is remove any steps or rock sliders you have right here. Remove any old fender flare you have there, and just make sure it's clear and clean so you can start the installation. For the inside, if you have carpet, you'll want to pull it back away from the wall so it doesn't catch your drill bit. And then on the driver's side, your wiring harness runs right along here. So you'll want to unclip and pull out your wiring harness to make sure it's out of the way, or pull it out and around just so you can keep an eye on it so you won't catch it with a drill bit. Then if you come under the side of the rocker here, Metalcloak's instructions say that Rubicon editions have these little tabs that'll either need cut off or bent up to remove out of the way. Mine's not a Rubicon though, and it has the tabs, so I guess just cut those off or bend them out of the way. Another thing I've been meaning to do is kind of weld and plug up this hole. These holes were like lift points at the factory to lift the body and the tubs around. They came with a sticker kind of covering these. Mine, they've been long gone, but a lot of water gets in there, and this is what can really rot out some of your floor pan and torque boxes. And you'll have one back there too. I cut that out when I did my body repair, so that one's gone. But I kind of either need to put tape over this, or I would like to just weld it shut. I just don't feel like doing all that right now. And for my last big talking point before I actually start the install is if you plan on doing the front fenders or that rear wraparound armor from Metalcloak, they say to install both of those before you install the rock sliders. So for step one, you have these holes at the front and back of the rock sliders. The first thing the instructions say to do is install these countersunk cap screws. These are purely cosmetic, so just put a little bit of anti-seize on here and go ahead and put those in the front and rear. Okay, so I've got the rocker mocked up here so I can center punch and drill the holes. If you have the rear wraparound armor, you need to remove those 2 bolts first before you jack it up, and then you can stick them through to help with the alignment. It says you should have roughly equal gaps all around here, which it's close enough. And then if you come up front here, you have kind of this little curve, and that is supposed to be aligned pretty close to the firewall. I think that's close enough for me. I have done body work on this, and that body work has thrown some stuff a little out of alignment, so I'm not concerned about trying to make that perfect. But I do want to point out how good this looks with the Motobilt armor. I mean, that's maybe a 1/4 inch gap. Everything looks pretty good and is very armored up now. So the next step Metalcloak says is if you have the unfinished armor, which I paid the extra couple hundred or 150 or whatever it was to have it black powder coated like this. If you have the unfinished armor, you can just drill and use the holes as drill guides. But if you have the finished armor like this and you don't want to chew up your finish around the holes, then center punch the holes and then remove the armor and then drill it. You'll have to be a little more precise that way if you remove it to drill it. You'll probably want to start with a small bit and step it up from there instead of starting with just the big bit and then having it walk around. You don't want to risk getting your holes that far off center. So here is a diagram. These fit multiple different Jeep models. The TJ, like I have, you have those red dots, and it's kind of backwards from how we're facing the Jeep. That's the rear, that's the front of the Jeep. So the red dots you need to drill to 3/8 inch, and then the triangles are where you're going to put those rib nuts, and you have to then remove the armor and drill those to 17/32. So I'm going to go ahead and put you back on a time lapse and center punch all of this and then start drilling. One other thing I do want to mention is make sure you've got nothing on the other side of this to drill into. The driver's side, you need to worry about your wiring harness, but on this side, there shouldn't be anything. But just make sure you don't have anything sitting on the inside of the Jeep or anything crazy like that. Okay, so I drilled all the holes out to 3/8, and then there are 3 holes that I stepped up to a 1/2 inch. This one, that one, and that one. And technically those are supposed to be 17/32 to fit in the rivet nut, but I used a 1/2 inch bit, and then I just kind of moved it around to gain that extra 1/16 of an inch clearance and made sure the rib nut fit in there. So then after that, I just sprayed some spray paint in a cup and used my finger, and I made sure I got paint on all of the bare metal all around. On some of the deeper spots, I went in on the other side and reached in there to make sure I could get as much as I could. So now I have paint on that. I'm gonna let it dry for about, I don't know, 10-20 minutes, and then I'll be back out and I will put in the rib nuts and then start installing the rock sliders. So next you're gonna install the rib nuts. Metalcloak includes this little kind of drilled out nut and bolt to crush the rib nut on there. It does work, but it kind of wore out pretty quick when I tried it, and it didn't work great, and one of my rib nuts ended up spinning in place and I can't get a bolt into it. So I also had bought a tool, and this tool I got on Amazon for around 70 bucks, I think, and it came with a bunch of the rivet nuts and then a lot of the nose and mandrel pieces, a few metric, a few standard, and the standard 5/16 by 18 worked good with the Motobilt armor, the rib nuts it came with, but the Metalcloak armor, I had to order this separate. It is a 3/8 by 16 mandrel and nose piece, and that works with the rib nuts that Metalcloak gave you. So I highly recommend the tool if you're doing a lot of this armor. If not, and you're just doing the Metalcloak stuff and you just have a few of the rib nuts to put in there, then I guess you can use theirs. In my opinion, it's more prone to error, so I would recommend this as a good investment. It's nice to have anyway, and if you want a more in-detailed description on how to use it, check out my Motobilt armor video. I kind of went into detail on how they work and that, but they're fairly simple and worth the money. So now that the paint is dried, I'm gonna start putting in the rivet nuts. So now we're ready to start actually mounting the rock slider. So again, if you look at this diagram here, this is for the TJ. The red dots use 3/4 inch long bolts, and then the diamonds use 1 inch long bolts. So I'm going to put you guys back on a hyperlapse and start mounting this up. Okay, there's the passenger side done. I think that looks pretty good. I can't wait to get that aluminum armor Raptor lined black to match. It kind of slowed me down on this side because I had done the body work. There was some differences from what a normal stock Jeep would have, and I had to take it off and I had to cut some pieces, and I didn't cut them big enough, and it was really hard to get the nuts on the back of those bolts. So not loving that, but I've learned for the other side, so I'll just cut that ahead of time. But that, I think, is pretty much going to wrap it up. I will go ahead and do a time lapse of me installing the other side for you guys to see, but the only differences are going to be the thing I said in the beginning, where you need to move your wiring harness and stuff out of the way, and same thing with those tabs from underneath, you got to bend up or cut off. But this did fit up pretty good. I'm liking how everything lined up. It looks nice, and I mean, it's really gonna, like I said, complete it when I paint that. That just kind of looks like an unarmored spot right now, but it's just aluminum. So you guys tell me down in the comments what you think of all the armor on the Jeep. Does it look good fully armored like this? Do you think the Metalcloak and the Motobilt armor works well together? Tell me your thoughts. All right, well, this side's done now too, so driver and passenger side's done. There was nothing different on the driver's side other than what I showed you in the beginning, and it went a lot smoother because I learned on the other side what I needed to adjust for on this side, which is just personal stuff to my Jeep since I had cut out and replaced metal. But thanks guys for watching. I appreciate all my subscribers. If you're not subscribed and you made it to the end of the video, please think about subscribing. I've got tons more content coming, and pretty soon it's going to be actual overland and off-roading trips because the Jeep is almost done. I am so excited. Thanks guys. All right guys, here's a final look at the Jeep with everything all installed. This completes all my armor installation. I'll probably take this off here in a few minutes and Raptor line it black. I don't think I'm going to include that in the video because that's not really the purpose of this video. But yeah, be sure to check out all the other armor install videos, all the other Metalcloak videos I've got, and thanks for watching.